Revolutionary War was ongoing. George Washington was up in Boston, Massachusetts. He was stuck. He was outgunned and he was outnumbered and he desperately needed help. The Second Continental Congress immediately enacted 10 new rifle companies to be formed up from Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. We were Virginia back then. In fact, Shepherdstown was a mustering point for the Continental Army. And we had a rifle company form up here, made up of about 300 men, 100 of whom actually came from Shepherdstown. Took them about a month to get completely outfitted, and the townsfolk gave heavily to them, shoes, clothing, and food. And then on July 17th, 1775, our rifle company marched out of town, forded the Potomac, and started marching north, meeting up with all the other rifle companies along the way. Our rifle company's march has become known as our famous Beeline March. Our rifle company marched 600 miles in 24 days. That is an average of 25 miles a day. No breaks, fully burdened with everything that they would need, probably with a lot of wool on, and you know what the heat and vile humidity is around here in July. We know for a fact one day they walked 28 miles. We have 38 known Revolutionary War graves in this town. We're very proud of that fact, and that's why we're in this cemetery. This is called the Old English Cemetery. This is one of the oldest in town. Under our feet are the graves of French and Indian, Revolutionary, and Civil War soldiers. But you're looking around and you're thinking, it looks kind of empty. Why are we here? This is one of the massive mysteries of Shepherdstown. This cemetery is full. We are standing on, and we're going to be walking on unmarked graves. We do not know where the headstones are. We do not think that they were wood. We flat out do not know where they are. This cemetery is very active. Along this back wall back here, there's very often sighted a female and a young girl. We assume the young girl is the woman's daughter. We just don't know. And in the very far back corner, where the stone wall meets the back little wooded area, there's a crypt. There's a known malevolent spirit back there. If you're at all sensitive and you go back there, you may get a splitting headache. Mine's usually across my third eye. You may feel dizzy. You may feel someone passing through you. A lot of different things happen to a lot of different people in this cemetery. What I like to do is let everyone walk around for 4 or 5 minutes, take pictures, do whatever you want, and then I'll call you back up top. We've got a lot more to talk about. Go ahead, walk around, feel free, and if you need anything, just yell at me. My name is Janet. I will definitely hear you. Are you good?
We all going back to the bad corner, right?
Hey.
Hey.
Where's the back? Is this the back corner?
This is the back corner.
I'd like to hear what everyone thinks they saw. I think I see a guy who's like, oh, dude, it's so cool. I'm the only one who sees some horror and disease death, as you've seen so far. This corner has incredibly odd deaths surrounding it. Okay, really, really weird stuff. There's a ton of stories. I'm going to tell you just the most easily relatable ones right now. This building right here is one of the oldest buildings in current Shepherdstown. I say current Shepherdstown. Founded in 1734, Mecklenburg. Got our town charter 1762, still Mecklenburg. 1792, we became known as Shepherdstown, 2 different words. At some point after that, we don't know if it was a mistake in the registrar's office, the town office, census taker, pushed the words together, we became known as Shepherdstown. Under this building was an original 2-story hand-hewn log cabin from about 1787. In the 1860s, they bricked it up, built the 3rd floor, and built the addition out back. It is all apartments today, except for these very first 2 bottom ground floor businesses. Do you see these 2 stoops? Right there? So those are businesses. This corner business has a known dark entity in it. They've known that for a long time. A poltergeist, if you will. It's very dark. During a tour, it was 6 years ago in the summer now, I'm standing here, I do the same exact talk, I stay in the same direction. This corner business was empty at that time, and as I'm talking, on this stoop, there is sitting a man, hat man, if you will, if anyone pays attention to hat man. Seen all over the world, whatever, in all black, large dark brim hat. He was sitting on that stoop and just slowly looked up at me like that. He was not there the second before, okay? I continued on with this tour stop, and then at some point, very quickly after that, he got up and looked at me and started walking down that sidewalk. I can see through him. That, I'll say, scared me so much, because that's a massive thing to have happen. I actually lost my tour in this stop. I messed up. So everyone's like, oh, would she drink before the tour? So I tried to pick up where I was. I continued on, finished this tour stop, and a lady in the back of the crowd, she's like, are you watching the shadow man across the street? I'm like, thank you, Lord, I'm not losing my marbles. So what she did is she broke from the tour, she ran up this way and crossed the street, stood right over here, trying to debunk it. She's looking up and down that sidewalk both directions to make sure we just didn't see someone. She said as far as she could see both directions, no one was walking. Since then, there's been 3 or 4 tours that people, before I even bring this up, are like, there's a shadow person right over there. There's been a lot of weird things happening. Now, this poltergeist story is scary, it's frightening. A lot of people in town don't really like it, but it makes for great TV. Shepherdstown has had a few TV shows filmed here. Obviously Ghost of Shepherdstown, but a few episodes of other TV shows have been filmed here. Ghost Adventures actually filmed here. We'll stop in front of that house also. But there was a tea shop in this corner business for years called Shepeherdstown. Very popular, very famous tea shop. Late 90s, early 2000s, 2013, 2014, very popular. Now, that owner knew it was an active building, and from what I'm told from Dana, made peace with it. Said, you know, I'm going to be here. I want to make a go of this. I will respect your space if you respect mine. Things apparently went very, very well. I've had people on the tour, alumni from the college, people who work there, people from town, to stop by and tell me, yeah, I work there. Same things are reported. Butcher knife moving on the prep table in the back, teacups moving, books moving on shelves, things like that. About 2014, that tea shop owner said, you know what, health is good, got plenty of money, I'm going to retire while the getting's good. She put that up for sale, and a tea shop owner from Great Britain who was in California, she was on the West Coast, heard about the location, wanted to move to the East Coast, came over and fell in love with it. But this new tea shop owner wanted to capitalize on that poltergeist story that was going around. She built a seance room in the back, held regular seances. Dana was a part of them, and also had Ouija boards out, like party favors.
Oh, that's bad.
Ouija boards were everywhere. From what Dana tells me, and another couple people in town say, that the activity went off the charts through the roof. They actually asked people to go in there and try and clear it. Dana said it was bad, but again, made for great TV. So Dana talked a couple TV shows into filming a seance sequence. I have the same exact story from 3 different parties. Dana, the person who was filming, and the producer of that TV show, that while they were filming a seance sequence, there was a big historic mirror in that room. While they were filming, that mirror started vibrating on the wall. There was no wind, there was no weather phenomenon, no big trucks were going by. It came to be that mirror, during that seance, during filming, came off the wall, fell, broke into about 1 million pieces. They finished filming for the night, and a couple weeks later, the post-production crew came back to take stills. This happens a lot. Found the business closed. That tea shop owner was so frightened by this incident, she closed her doors and left town. That first tea shop owner was in business over 20 years with no issues. The second tea shop, 7 months. She played with the dark thing, and she got it. This corner business, they've had a real hard time keeping someone in there. It was empty for a couple years, and it was Veterans Art Corner, empty again. The LP shop, it's a 78 shop, he's doing quite well, but still a lot of sightings, a lot of dark activity right here. Does anyone have any questions before I move to my happy story of the night? I do have a happy story, yeah.
Happy story?
Who remembers Mary Tyler Moore? Mary Tyler Moore show, Dick Van Dyke show? So Mary Tyler Moore actually has an ancestor who used to live in this town, and his name was Conrad Schindler, and he actually had a business in here. He was a coppersmith. This building was built 1794, 1795. He had a business in there, and he would forge and form the copper in the bottom part and the back part. In 1995, Mary Tyler Moore came to town, paid out of her pocket to have that building fully renovated, and then donated that building to the Shepherd University to use as their Civil War Museum. Isn't that the coolest story on earth?
Oh,
Good for
wow.
her.
That blue sign right there, it's actually called the George Tyler Moore Civil War Museum. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal museum. A lot of documentations in there, a lot of really cool things. I hear there's some of Conrad Schindler's copper work is in there. It's a phenomenal place. On a paranormal note, in 1895, that building served as Christ Reformed Church offices. A clergyman was found hanging by the neck
Ooh.
in one of the stairwells. So you've seen what I'm saying. Odd stuff going on this corner. Back around 1912, this is Trinity Episcopal Church. The building to the right is called, that was the house of one of the early newspapermen. Okay? And back in 1912, Ida Snyder, the woman of the house and their 5 children, decided they wanted to go to church. They got on their horse and carriage, coming down German Street, or making a left right here. All the witnesses relate the same exact thing. During the turn right here, for some reason, no one knows, the horse started rearing and bucking. Mother Snyder apparently stood up. They don't know if she was trying to regain her balance or if she was, what was going on. Rachel, one of the daughters, reached out and tried to grab her belt to, right her. She was heavy. She couldn't get a hold of the belt. Mother Snyder fell right here, snapping her neck and dying on the spot.
Wow.
So you're seeing what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that,
A
yeah.
lot of death right here.
That story was told.
We are not going to go into these stories. These 2 stories are incredibly long. This church, back in the 1840s, a circus elephant in town dropped dead. Right in this yard, the circus elephant is still buried right there. And this little tiny building, now our chapel, the school, back in 1790. In the 1950s, the Sunday school teacher, she was unbalanced mentally, spent a lot of time in Shepherd Pratt. She was put in prison for a couple of years with an issue. There's an issue over by the Bavarian. She thought something bad was being done in town. She was in Shepherd Pratt for a while when she was released in jail, and then came back here and she took her life in that little building. Do you see what I'm saying? This town's cute, it's sweet, a lot of war death, but this corner, a lot of really bad stuff is going on right here.
And it's right by a church.
Yeah. Yep.
How did she take her life?
Because they took down a cedar grove over by a historic cedar grove that was over by the Bavarian Inn. She did protests in town. She wrote letters to the editors. She's, banging on City Hall's door. You can't do this. They had to take the trees down. There was a blight, and they were worried that blight was going to travel to all the apple orchards between here and Martinsburg. And she just lost her mind. She chained herself to the trees. You can actually Google the story. It's called Serena Dandridge and Cedar Grove, War of the Cedar Grove. And she came back after she was released, went right back in there and committed suicide. Yep,
Did she hang herself, or did they?
Well, the rumor is, there's 2 rumors, that she hung herself from one of the trees we'll walk by. And I've done paranormal investigations all over the country. Nothing scares me because I stupidly think I'm protected. Dana took me into the chapel one March. It was incredibly cold during the day. I walked in there and I said, I will not go back into that building. There's no heat on. The second I walked in, it was like this blanket of doom and dread fell over me, and it's just like, why? And the air going in and out of my mouth was wet and hot. And Dana's like, I said she poisoned herself. She goes, it's exactly what I'm getting. So the rumor is she hung herself from one of these trees. Interesting that you asked that. I like that. Are you ready to cross over? It's all the way up to near Elmwood Cemetery, a little bit beyond Thomas Shepherd Inn. Down this end, there's a grove of trees where the train tracks are. It goes all the way down there. Very, very long, okay? We have had 3 massively tragic incidences occur on the street, and I'll tell you about all of them. Before we start walking, this church right here is known as the New Street Methodist Church. Now, during the time of the Battle of Antietam, when we were the field hospital, this church decided to take both Union and Confederate, and it became so bad that that actual congregation had their own civil war.
Oh,
I
jeez.
believe it's the Union stayed here, and the Confederate portion of the congregation moved away for 40 years. There's a
Wow.
brick building called the War Memorial Building. As you're facing the little white library where we start, to the left of that, they held services in there. So for 40 years, it split this church apart. It's
Dang.
huge.
Wow.
Yep. So let's
That's-
walk on up here.
Kind of deep.
And what this tree's been a witness to and has seen in this country.
A lot.
Yep. Come on down here. Feel that cold?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna get you. How's everyone doing? Is everyone good?
Yeah.
Before we go into the cemetery, there's a piece of history I've got to talk to you about because I love this one so much. This building is known as Trinity House. This building was the church rectory for Trinity Episcopal that we were just in front of, where I said the circus elephant died.
Uh-huh.
This was built in 1814 and was a church rectory for all those years until 2017, when for the very first time it was sold to a private couple. You see this little addition right here? This little addition used to be a legal office. There was a lawyer by the name of John Baker from Frederick County, Maryland. Baker's a big name in Frederick County. Right here is where he did all the legal work to defend Aaron Burr in the trial against Alexander Hamilton. You can also Google that. They did all the legal work here, and from here they went to court in Virginia. So huge amount of history in this town. Huge.